We're not going to.
We're good now.
Yeah, we're good now. Oh, thank you.
Okay, Albie, you can start.
Yes. Good afternoon and welcome everyone. Thank you for your patience. This is Elvira Ford. I will be assisting the Park Board. The May 19, 2022 Park and Recreation Board meeting will be called to order soon. But first, I have the following information to review. Until further notice, meetings of the Park and Recreation Board will be conducted pursuant to the provisions of California Executive Order 29-20, which suspends certain requirements of the Ralph M. Brown Act. In the interest of public health and safety, board members will participate in meetings by teleconference as such in accordance with the executive order. No members of the public will attend the meetings, but instead view and join the meeting proceedings via the link listed on the agenda and website. In lieu of in-person attendance, members of the public had the option to submit their comments via public comment web form or to join the live meeting webinar. The instructions for joining the meeting were provided in advance on the website as well as on the agenda. Members of the public who opted to address the board in writing were invited to submit a web form prior to the meeting to be read into the record today. Instructions for word limitations and deadlines were noted on the web form. For those wishing to speak during today's virtual meeting, when the item on which you wish to speak is called, press *9 on your phone keypad or press the raise hand icon on your computer. When prompted, please state your name for the record and provide your public comment. You will have time allotted by the Vice Chair to provide your comment. Once your time has ended, you will be moved out of the queue and your microphone will be muted. Pursuant to open meeting laws, no discussion or action other than a referral shall be taken by the board on anything brought forth under non-agenda public comment. And I have a special instruction also to our Park Board members. Good afternoon, board members. You may from previous virtual boards know that we are using Zoom. To reacquaint you with the interface, please note the buttons on your meeting bar that appear when you move the mouse. The camera icon will activate your video. The microphone will mute and unmute when you click the microphone icon. Remember to mute when not speaking and unmute to speak. Use raise hand icon to signal that you want to speak. Say motion if you want to make a motion. Say second if you want to second a motion. The Parks and Recreation Board Chair will call on speakers based on the order shown in the list of raised hands. To comply with the Brown Act, all motions and second motions must be verbalized by the board member. Thank you, and I will turn the microphone over to Vice Chair Dennis Achuji, who will call the meeting to order.
Thank you, and good afternoon all. And now call the meeting of the Park and Rec Board meeting to order at 2:11. I will now call a quick roll call, and if you could unmute yourself and say yay, present, that'd be great. Start off with Nick Anastopoulos.
Yay.
David Barron.
Yay.
John Becker.
Present.
Marcella Bothwell is absent. Molly Chase is absent. Ron Cho.
Present.
Rick Gully is absent.
No, I'm present. I'm present.
Oh, okay.
I was going to be, but I'm here for an hour or so.
Okay. Evelyn Smith.
Present.
Peter Verdon.
Present.
Molly Zosa.
Present.
And I am also present, Dennis Otsuji. And thank you for all your attendance today. Also joining us today are Park and Recreation staff, including Karen Dennison, Tom Tomlinson. I don't believe he's on, but Louis Merlin, Michelle Abella-Son, Frank Hutt, and Shannon Scogan. We also have other staff, city staff attending to support our meeting today. The next item we have for the board is the approval of the April 21st, 2022 minutes. I hope everyone had the opportunity to review the minutes from the April meeting. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes as they are? If you would please say motion. When called on, please state your name and make the motion.
Motion, Rick Gully.
Second, Dave Barron.
It's been motioned by Ray Gawley and second by David Barron. So I will take a roll call vote. Nick Anastopoulos,
Approve.
David Barron,
Approve.
John Becker,
Approve.
Ron Cho. Ron Cho,
Approved.
Rick Gully,
Approved.
Evelyn Smith,
Approve.
Peter Burden,
Approve.
Noli Zosa,
Approved.
and I also approve. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 approved and 2 absent. Thank you. We will now move to non-agenda public comments. Are there any non-agenda public comments?
Yes, there is, and there's somebody on the queue. Our first non-agenda public comment comes from John Leake, who states, Park and Rec is embroiled in closing Point La Jolla by posting signs there and rangers every day, per recommendation of the City Council Environment Committee. That was to require the City Council have a new municipal code installed by May 7th. Could not be scheduled for budgeting. The City Council can and must be advised there is no need, never was, whether the city attorney was going to allow it or not. The closure is in effect and guarded by rangers 7 days a week, now using existing ordinance 63.20.3. That existing ordinance allows the director to establish rules on his own to post and enforce using his rangers. This will also allow the director to legally affect any other sea lion protection closures on any other beach where pinnipeds wander onto. Park and Rec has had federal encouragements for this since 2017. This completes the written non-agenda public comment, but there is one in the queue for Danielle Lehman.
Okay, thank you. I have a question, kind of a follow-up from last month. It was mentioned that this meeting of the Park and Rec Board will return to an in-person one in a hybrid form. So I was wondering if that also applies to the CP1 and CP2 meetings. It seems that these groups have not met very much these past few years, and I'd like to know what the procedure will be for moving 2 naming requests forward. One is for the North Choice Comfort Station and the other for Kalina Rec Center. The first was on hold till in-person meetings returned, and the second was just voted on last night. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. That completes non-agenda public comment.
Thank you. We will now go for any requests for items to be placed on the consent agenda. Are there any? If not, we will move on. Request for continuance. Are there any requests for items to be continued for the next meeting? If I may comment on that, are we going to make a comment on the one item that was on the action at this point? Karen?
Yes. Please proceed. Thank you.
Just for clarity, I think Chair Suji, that's
Yes.
item 102. Is that to be continued, Karen?
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
No, yes, item 102 is to be,
Thank you.
So that is the only change. And there is no continuance. Now we'll go to committee reports. Community Park 1, we had a combo meeting with Community Park 2. There were some good reports given by staff in regards to many of the things that we heard at the last meeting. The one action item that we had, we were not able to take action on that due to not having a quorum. But that was the basis of the meeting that we had this past month on Community Park 1. Community Park 2. David? Did you have any comments?
I think David's muted.
You're muted, David.
I have nothing to report for Community Parks 2.
Okay. And Balboa Park Committee, I believe Monty Chase is absent. Mission Trails Regional Park Citizens Advisory Committee, Rick Gully.
Yeah, I attended the March 3rd meeting and they had basically seven information items. The three that, the three that seem to make the most sense, or the two that make the most sense, three. The Mission Trails flow, regulatory structure, and vernal pools habitat. That's a fancy way of talking about the water tanks and the vernal pools that was discussed, and that project is nearing completion. The San Diego River Crossing Bridge project, I think most everybody's familiar with that one. The father of the boy who drowned was there, as well as a couple of engineers. They've raised $900,000 from donors and $1.5 million from the state. The bridge hasn't been designed yet, so it's still in design process, and there'll be quite a few regulatory issues they have to go through. And finally, the old Mission Dam dredging project is starting back again. They're still in the regulatory process, and funding is likely secured. Those are the three major items.
Thank you, Rick. San Diego Park Foundation, Marcella is not here. She's on vacation. Thank you. I have no report. Board member comments? David? Go ahead. And
You're muted.
You're muted. Unmute. There you go.
Thank you very much. I'd like to talk today, take a few moments regarding the Fern Street Circus. I am a firm believer that the Fern Street Circus provides great opportunities for young people and adults in the Mid-City area. I think the Fern Street Circus is looking to move to a new property at 4105 Polk Street, which is, I'm under the impression, and staff can correct me, that it's a piece of land that's being transferred from Caltrans to the city for park and rec use. And I'd like to see what we can do to have Fern Street Circus move there to be able to use it for their outdoor performances. I was wondering if we can have a report on that next time at our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Karen
Oh, hi,
Dennison.
Karen.
I just wanted to respond to your question, and we'd be happy to go ahead and provide you with an update on that location. So again, just to confirm, it's 4105 Polk Street?
Yes, I think that's the address. It's across from Charalta Park.
Okay,
And I think it's a staging area for Caltrans at the moment.
yes, we'd be happy to look into that and provide an update at the next meeting for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other board comments? Nick?
Yeah. I want to just mention that I've been working with State Assemblyman Brian Mainshine to secure about $750,000 in funding for the Rancho Bernardo Community Park, which is in addition to the $500,000 we secured about 3 years ago for the dog park within that facility. So more updates as they come along. It might be available September, October. And I've already mentioned this to the staff at the Park and Rec Department. They're aware of it also, but I wanted to make the board aware.
Thank you, Nick. Any other board comments? I see none. We will go now into the action item. We have two. Action item 101, North Park Community Park Temporary Off-Leash Dog Park General Plan Amendment. The presenter would be Frank Hunt, the park designer. Go ahead, Frank. Make sure you unmute yourself too. You're still muted.
There we go. Okay.
There you go.
Good. Found it. Found the button. Good afternoon, Park and Rec Board, other staff members of Parks and Rec Department, and the community as a whole. Today is a presentation for the North Park Community Park General Development Plan Amendment for a temporary off-leash dog park. My name is Frank Hunt, park designer for City of San Diego Parks and Rec Department. If approved, the GDP amendment would secure a design and construction for a temporary off-leash dog park within the North Park Community Park. The project scope would consist of chain link fences, gates, and existing turf. This project is funded, and we are currently in the public input process. This here is the existing general development plan. As you can see, the park is located within the central area of North Park community. The park currently has facilities such as rec center, ball fields, playgrounds, and other elements. Here is the proposed location for the dog park, off-leash dog run area. So just along Idaho and Howard Avenue. Why is off-leash dog park needed in this area? Well, I will say the primary reason for the off-leash dog park is to alleviate off-leash dog violations at that is ongoing at the Garfield Elementary and Alba North Park Joint Use Field. As a result of those violations, damage to the field and health hazards have resulted in the closure of the joint use fields during the weekdays. Public input process started with the January North Park CRG workshop item and continued with the action item on February 28th with the North Park CRG approving the design with a vote of 4-0-0. And of course, today before you, we have that approved design. Here is the approved design that was voted on. It shows a enveloped area for large dogs and an enveloped area for small dogs, currently on area that's occupied by turf and trees. This is the overlay of the areas as in context of the entire park as a whole. As you can see, there's a bit of a buffer between the dog park location for this, between the dog park location and the playground that is here. The staff's recommendation that you approve this general development plan amendment. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
Question I have is, how temporary is this temporary?
Could you hold, we need to get public comments first. Okay. If you
Okay.
can, okay. So Louis, I believe we have some public comments. Is there any public comments?
How are
There
we
is-
able to do public comments? Do we need to fill out a form?
No, we will do them in order of the raise hands button. There
Okay,
is no written public comment submitted for this item. So that being said, now we can go to the raise hands, starting with Danielle Lehman, followed by Murphy Mikhail.
Go ahead, Danielle.
Here we go. Okay. I just had a question. This was seen at a CRG in February and it came straight to the Park and Rec board. So my question is, did it go to CP2 and did they vote on it? Or what is the proper procedure for GDP amendments? Thank you.
I thank you for your question. So in accordance with Council Policy 600-33, which is the governing document for amendments to General Development Plan, the process for this project was to go before the North Park CRG Community Recreation Group. So it only went to that group before coming to the Parks and Rec Board.
Murphy Mikhail.
hello, my Michelle Mincy Murphy. I'm the principal actually of Garfield Elementary. My only comment is I want to thank you because it has been hard returning to school after COVID just generally. And the moving of the park really aids us in keeping our parents feeling comfortable with their kids returning to school, because we had quite a bit of challenges around the dog parks. So nothing against dogs. I love dogs. It's just, I just want to thank you for making this an item and approving it.
Thank you for your comments. Nick, you had a comment?
Yeah, my comment is temporary dog park. Is it, how long is this supposed to be temporary as opposed to permanent?
And I can speak to that. Well, it's temporary until a revised implementation and revised design of the eastern part of the North Park Community Park is developed and funded. Currently, it is not funded, so that's why it would be a temporary.
Okay.
And the intent, and I suppose that, of course, it would still be community-based, but a more permanent facility would be established during that process.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Frank. John?
You're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Frank. I appreciate the presentation on there. being temporary, does that mean that the fencing will be permanently anchored into the location, or is it going to be just like a construction kind of fencing that's shiftable and movable? Has that been thought through yet?
That's a good question, and it has been thought through a bit, not to its full incorporation, but to answer your question, yes, the fencing would be more permanent with the footings, with the chain link metal style of fencing.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other any other comments or questions from the board? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the North Park Community Park Temporary Off-Leash Dog Park General Development Plan Amendment, Action Item 101.
Second,
I'll second it.
Doesn't matter.
who is that?
Nick Anastasopoulos.
Okay, Nick.
Thank you,
So-
Frank.
Motion by John Becker, second by Nick Anastopoulos. And I will take a roll call vote. Nick Anastopoulos,
Approve.
David Barron,
Approve.
John Becker,
Approve.
Marcelo both was absent, Molly Chase is absent, Ron Cho,
Approved.
Rick Gully. Rick,
Rick, I think you're muted.
maybe he had to leave. I'll get back to him.
Back to Rick.
Evelyn Smith,
Oh.
Peter Burden,
Approve.
Noli Zosa.
Approve.
Rick, are you there? Okay, so it's,
He's no longer on the call.
got it, okay. So the vote is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for approval and 1, 2, 3 absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our second item is 102.
Lee,
Okay, here we go. Emerson Elementary School Joint Use Facility General Development Plan.
That's
everyone.
103.
And go ahead, Shannon.
Just to
Sorry,
clarify, this
103, I'm sorry.
that's okay. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Shannon Scoggins from the City of San Diego Parks and Recreation Department, Park Designer. I'm here with San Diego Unified School District Chief of Facilities and Planning and Construction, Lee Delgaroff, as well as the Play All Day Program Manager, Tom Calhoun. And this item is for the Emerson Elementary School Joint Use Facility General Development Plan. So challenging getting this thing to, there we go. This is part of the Play All Day Parks program, which is an expansion of the joint use program at the city to add over 45 new joint use facilities in the next 5 to 10 years. To date, 21 Play All Day joint use facilities have been open to the public. There are 6 in construction, 1 is currently bidding, and we have 12 joint use fields that are in design. To learn more about the Play All Day Parks program, as well as the joint use program with school districts, we do have a webpage on the Parks and Recreation Department site that includes a tracking sheet, links to the San Diego Unified Construction Project public portal, updated copies of joint use agreements, as well as general information. This project at Emerson Elementary would provide for the design and construction of a new joint use facility at this location within the Southeastern Community Council District 9. It will provide 1.6 acres of population-based parkland and 49 recreation value points. The project scope includes a multi-purpose synthetic turf field, asphalt walking track, parking lot, drinking fountain, fencing, and trees. The funding for both design and construction is through the San Diego Unified School District voter-approved capital improvement bond measures. The aerial photo that you see on the slide includes the red dashed line identifying the joint use area on the campus. There were 2 public input meetings that were held, and the community concerns can be summarized as follows. The first impacts to neighborhood parking and congestion. The community was concerned that the proposed joint use facility would further impact the congestion and parking that they currently experience in their neighborhood. The joint use area does include an off-street parking area that would provide additional parking for the joint use field. In addition, as part of the school whole site modernization project, the district has constructed a new on-site student pickup area, as well as a parking lot along 36th Street, which will also address congestion. The second item is related to the joint use field hours. This school site has a unique elementary school intramural program, and the joint use agreement will reflect that the field will be closed to the public until 5:30 on some Thursdays and Fridays when the intramural practices and games occur. And the final item is related to the provision of a public restroom. The community planning group was concerned that a permanent public restroom was not included in this general development plan. It was explained that the city does have the option per the terms of the joint use agreement to locate a porta potty on the site if it's requested by a sports league. However, members of the community planning group felt that a porta potty should be located on site at all times for public use. The recommendation for approval from the CPG did include the request that the city consider including a porta potty on site. In February, the Southeastern San Diego Planning Group voted unanimously to recommend approval of the GDP for Emerson Elementary Joint Use Facility. This is a copy of the general development plan. The red dashed line is the proposed joint use boundary. It includes the parking lot off of 35th Street, as well as thus the access for the public to walk along the north and west side of the parking lot to access the field. The field will be a synthetic turf multi-purpose field, approximately a ½ acre, surrounded by an asphalt walking track, shade trees, a drinking fountain. A location has been identified for a porta potty if the city determines that it is needed on the site. And staff does recommend the approval of the GDP for the Emerson Elementary JUF. And that does conclude my presentation.
Thank you, Shannon. Is there any public comments, Louis?
No written public comment was submitted for this item, and there's no public comment on the queue right now, unless anyone raises their hand.
And I do not see any, so I will go to board comment. Any comments from, yes, Peter?
Hi, Shannon. I have a question, and it doesn't probably will be more general than the specific site. Will the Parks and Board be looking into having a dog park in these joint fields as ahead of the community requesting it? Or would that be something that has to be requested by the public or the residents in order for it to be?
So an off-leash dog park would not be a suitable use for a joint use facility. This is typically, school district land, and we look for alternative locations for off-leash dog parks in the vicinity of joint use facilities when the joint use facility is being impacted by illegal use of off-leash dogs. It's very tempting because these joint use facilities are fenced, and so they do become de facto areas for members of the public to have their dogs off leash, but that is not allowed per the municipal code. Municipal code requires dogs to be on leash in parks unless they're designated off-leash dog parks. So we have been working to identify some alternative sites, as you heard earlier with the North Park Community Park, as well as last month we brought the temporary off-leash dog park that's located at the education center over by Bernie Elementary to address that issue. So we are looking at alternatives, but a dog park would never be a suitable facility at a joint use site.
Yeah, that's happening in a joint use facility in the Sherman Elementary School, and it is a leashed dog park, but I've seen it be used for off leash. So I know that the residents might be requesting something like that. So I just don't know what the procedure is for that to be worked up ahead of time in future joint fields that are created, not necessarily the ones that are already existing, as in a section parted from the joint field. So that was just a comment, and just out of personal, knowledge of how this works. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Any more board comments? I thought I saw John. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Osuji. Thank you, Shannon. On, looking at the project site there on kind of Google Maps or Google Earth, looks pretty green today, but then it doesn't appear that, and maybe this is something for San Diego Unified as well, some of those reps, that there's proposals for bioretention on there. Is that to be created and then maintained by San Diego Unified as well? Looks like around the fringes of this facility.
So the entire campus is going through a whole site modernization construction right now. It's currently under construction. They're finishing up some of the items. So the bioretention basins that were shown on the general development plan, some are encapsulated within the red dash line, which is the joint use boundary, and those that are inside the red dash line would be the responsibility of Parks and Rec to maintain those planted biobasins, because they treat the parking lot and the asphalt walking track and synthetic turf field. The other biobasins, my understanding is that they are treatment facilities for some of the hard courts and surfacing that's outside the joint use boundaries. So that's the distinction between the two, but they would all be, my understanding is they would all be planted biobasins.
Sure. And so it looks like then the new artificial grass area will be reduced in size from the ones that's out there today.
The size will be a little different in configuration. It'll be more rectangular versus the slightly chamfered corner on the existing turf that's also needs to be replaced. But the size is approximately the same.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other comments or questions from the board? I have a couple. One, just as input, my understanding right now on this bioretention, there may be some things coming down the road in regards to how they're going to address that, Shannon. So hopefully you're going to have area not being taken away by, having to have a bioretention, because that's always been my comment, especially in parks where they take up a large amount of the park space that could be used for better things than bioretention. It is important, the bioretention, but the way they're doing it is not as efficient as what the discussion is going on. Hopefully they'll be changing that in the next year or so, hopefully. Last comment I have, this is just a historical perspective. I went to this elementary school in 1952 or 53 at the old school. So it's still there. But it's kind of nice to see it's still there, and it gives a nice historic perspective for myself, but looks like it's going to be a nice elementary school as it progresses. With that, I'll take a motion.
Vice Chair, there's just a public comment on the chat from Danielle Lehman. Did this joint use project go before CP2 for a vote?
So per our current council policy, general development plans do not go to the area committees for input. So no, it did not go.
Thank you, Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. I'll make a motion.
Second motion.
Motion by John, seconded by David. I'll take a roll call. Nick Anastopoulos.
Approve.
David Barron.
Approve.
John Becker.
Approve.
Marcella is absent. Molly is absent. Rancho.
Approved.
I saw Rick Gully back. Are you back, Rick?
I'm approved, sorry.
Evelyn Smith.
Approve.
Peter Burden.
Approve.
Nola Zosa.
Approve.
So, and I approve. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 affirmed and 3 absent. So that passes.
Vice Chair, before you go into informational items, I wanted to go back to the director's report. Assistant Director Karen Dennison can provide an update.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. I apologize. Sorry, Karen.
No apology needed. Very much. I appreciate it. Again, my name is Karen Dennison. I'm the Assistant Director for the Recreation Department. I'm providing director's report on behalf of Andy Field, who had to attend a budget meeting along with some other Parks and Recreation staff members, Ryan Barbrick and Michelle Kelly. So it's my pleasure to be with you today. I just have a few brief comments. I know some of the board members have to go, so I will try to be as timely as possible. I wanted to mention regarding appointments to the Park and Recreation Board. Unfortunately, we don't have any updates at this time. I do want to talk about when we can return to in-person meetings. I know that that was a question that Danielle Lehman also raised, so thank you, Danielle. We are in the process of testing our proposed solution so we can bring about that hybrid model that we had talked about. So it would be, what we're trying to go ahead and achieve is what you kind of see currently going on at city councils that would still the virtual presentation, but also accommodate the interest and the desire by board members as well as members of the public who would like to go ahead and engage in person. So we were targeting the month of June for that, but no promises, but we're hoping to go ahead and give you, the board members, an update as to when and confirm whether or not we're going to be able to accomplish that for the month of June. And of course, all of the information be made publicly so the public is aware of that. We absolutely want to ensure as much participation and awareness as possible. So please stay tuned. I wanted to go ahead and mention that the employee recognition, first we have some superstar employees, but I wanted to go and draw attention to our third quarter employee recognition winners. They are Senior Park Ranger Stephen Smith, Golf Operations Assistant Jason Please, Recreation Leader 1, Angela Bremsa, Grounds Maintenance Worker 2, David Salonius, Recreation Center Director 3, Claudia Apodaca, Grounds Maintenance Worker 2, Larry Marr, Grounds Maintenance Worker 2, Jose Serrato, Clerical Assistant 2, Guadalupe or Lupita Edelman, and finally, Grounds Maintenance Worker 2, Lonnie Alexander. So a big congratulations to those folks that were nominated recognition. My next item on for my update concerns the budget, both for fiscal year 22 budget monitoring and fiscal year 23 as it relates to development of the budget. So you probably are aware probably had tuned in that the Parks and Recreation Department had their budget hearing on May 5th. I want to thank you to those who called in and commented for that. We really appreciate your support and of course the input that was provided as well. Also regarding the year-end capital report, Andy Field went ahead and sent that. You should have received that. I'm referring to the board members. He had sent that on May 11th via email. So hopefully you are all in receipt of that. And also just sort of hot off the presses, Mayor Todd Gloria released the revision to the proposed budget, also known as the May revise. Just wanted to go ahead and go over some of those key items for everyone's awareness. First, concerning Chicano Park public restroom graffiti abatement, we were able to receive $150,000 for that. Second item, we were able to go ahead and get funds for the second shift of park restroom cleaning, specifically in the form of additional 16 full-time equivalent positions and expenditures of 1.5 million that would enable this second shift to be in operation. So you should see an restroom cleaning as well as increased trash. Also, regarding the sidewalk vending ordinance, you probably have seen recent press regarding that. There's been an additional 1.3 million in one-time non-personal expenditures for the acquisition of vehicles and equipment to support 27 full-time employees. This is a massive infusion of staff. We're very grateful for that. So more to come on how that's going to be rolled out. Also, we received support for the animal services program. The department is receiving an additional one full-time equivalent employee in the form of a program coordinator, as well as an additional 144,000 to administer the animal services program. So we're looking forward to providing more updates in terms of that position, as well as the program concerning that person's responsibilities. Also, turf maintenance reimbursement. We are getting an additional $353,000 on personal expenditures for the city's share of turf maintenance for the following: Jefferson, Edison, Language Academy, and King Chavez Elementary Schools, middle school joint use fields. Park and restroom security, certainly a hot topic. We have received an additional $388,000 services to provide roving security at parks and recreation facilities, as well as Mission Bay Park. Also, wanted to speak to the Venery Ranch Neighborhood Park and the delayed opening for that. There has been a reduction of $264,000 in expenditures for this as a result of recently agreed upon terms for the reimbursement agreement with the developers. And as we just heard about Emerson Elementary joint use, we got an additional half full-time employee grounds maintenance worker 2, as well as non-personal expenditures of $91,000 to go along with that position. Andy, Director Field, is currently participating in the City Council budget hearing, which is why I can't be here today, to discuss the May revise and some of the major highlights that I just went over with you. And we look forward to providing you with an update to the outcome of that discussion. Next update concerns the Come Play Outside or the Summer for All of Us program. We are continuing efforts to go ahead and plan for summer activities, programs, events in collaboration with the San Diego Parks Foundation and Price Philanthropy. So we're very grateful for the continued partnership, continuation of our efforts from past summers. So more to come on that. Also, we just achieved a significant milestone as it relates to recruiting and job opportunities for the department. We have created a new web page. We are really trying to be aggressively recruiting and identifying employees to join our department and address the severe staffing shortage that we are experiencing. The board members should have received the memo, the flyer. So I hope that you can use your networks and tell your family and friends to share about the various opportunities we have at the department. And then in terms of vacancies, the department continues to have between 100 and 130 permanent full-time vacant positions. These vacancies include grounds maintenance workers, mid-level supervisors, recreation staff, and a variety of office and administrative staff. The department is continuing to go ahead and work aggressively to fill those vacant positions and to ensure that each recreation center and pool has the resources it needs to continue operating. In terms of the Parks Master Plan, we don't have an update this month. So we will continue to keep that as part of our report. And if there's any developments on that, we'll be sure to go ahead and provide the board with that information. Concerning Council Policy 700-42 and Community Recreation Group updates, we don't have an update this month. We are continuing to monitor ongoing efforts to update the relationship between the city and the community planning with a revision that's planned for the council policy for 600-24. So after that's settled, what we're hoping to go ahead and do is that we will use the same guidelines to revise Council Policy 700-42 for community recreation groups. So for the time being, the interim standard operating procedures remain in effect. In terms of play all day and joint use, there are no major updates to report at this time. Regarding new facilities, groundbreaking and grand openings, Fairbrook Park, the grand opening for that was on May 11th. City Heights Pool, oh my gosh, I never thought this was going to happen. Of course, I'm joking, but I'm so pleased about this. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that share my sentiment. The grand reopening of the pool was Friday, May 20th. Hopefully you were able to go ahead and see that and participate with that. Sherman Heights Community Center Playground, the grand opening is on Saturday, May 21st. We have the park social launch event at Outline Park, Saturday, May 21st. Island and 30th Street Mini Park grand reopening. This is tentatively scheduled for Friday, May 27th, but this may change. And then finally, Marston Middle School Joint Use Renovation Project groundbreaking is scheduled for June 2nd at 10:30. Pickleball. I know a few of the board members are avid pickleball players. I believe Noli, that you are one of those people. Rick, if I'm not mistaken. So we are still working to develop space for pickleball, and we are continuing to work with both sides, with both tennis and pickleball advocates. I can definitely speak firsthand that meetings have been going on, and we are engaging with the stakeholders on this very passionate topic. So more to come in the coming months. And then in terms of upcoming city council items, just want to make you aware that we have the Recreation Center Fund's proposed budget at City Council on Monday, May 23rd. Sarah Arazo and Andy Field will be presenting that item. We also have the coastal development permit for sea lions at Point La Jolla. That will be the following day on Tuesday, May 24th. And then also just wanted to update you on the proposed overnight gate closure for certain coastal and bay parking areas that's being developed for Coastal Commission for them to go ahead and receive that in July 2022. So lots of activity as it relates to both City Council and other regulatory agencies like the Coastal Commission. And then in terms of the Revere School site, during public comment at the April meeting, Kim Hansen, who's a guest, had asked the board about the status of the Revere School site in Linda Vista. So at the time when posed with that question, Andy was not aware of the site and had no information to share. But since that time, we were able to go ahead and gather that information. And I wanted to go ahead and provide that to you to go ahead and follow up and on that item. So this is owned by the San Diego Unified School District. Revere is an administration site that currently houses administrative functions such as food services, junior ROTC, and other similar functions. The district is considering longer range changes to the property. So for those of you that would like to have more information, you can contact Gene Fuller. The first name is spelled G as in George, E, N as in C, E as in Edward. That's Gene Fuller, the real estate director. And he could be reached at gfuller@sandy, SANDI.net. In terms of upcoming board items, we are going to be looking at policy for uses of the Opportunity Fund, and then policies for use of the citywide park DIF fund. And that, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Karen. Lots of good information there. Any of the board members have any comments or questions in regards to her report?
Yeah, Chair Suji.
John? Go ahead, John.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. In circling back on the Dennery Ranch Neighborhood Park, I don't know if you were versed in the reduction of that $264,000 that was in there. Do you know by chance, will that be shifted back at some future date, or has that been eliminated from the improvements? Not sure
You know-
if you're tracking that personally.
I will have to follow up with you. I know that it's definitely affected the opening of the park to later, so it's pushed it back. So we're thinking that it's going to happen in fiscal year 2024, but beyond that, I don't have any other additional information. But we're happy to go ahead and look into that and update you by the next meeting.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Any other, any other questions or comments on a report? Okay, I have one, Karen. All these vacancies, I was asked by somebody, well, a couple people that were retired, and they asked, does the city hire retired people for some of these positions that are available part-time?
I'm so glad you asked that, and that's wonderful. You're having those conversations. I'd like to go ahead and defer to my colleague, Louis Merlin, who, as you know, is the Deputy Director for Administrative Services and lead for all HR and personnel matters. And so, Louis, if you could go ahead and provide your latest on that, that would be fantastic, and answer Dennis's question regarding potential hiring or job opportunities for retirees.
Well, for retirees, we have a provisional appointment process. So anybody that retires from the city can apply to come back to the city after they've had a bona fide break of service of 6 months. So the retiree program has been effective in getting really subject matter experts to be leaders in the fields that they are retired from. A great example of that is Project Officer 2 Jim Winters, who is currently serving a provisional appointment in the asset management team. So yeah, we welcome any retiree that has left the city and wants to come back to share their knowledge to just apply. They can contact me directly or go through the personnel liaison. Thank you, Dennis, for your question.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a great resource that hasn't been used in the past. I mean, there's a lot of good history and experience there. So I'm glad, you know, you have a position like that. Any other comments or questions? If not, the next meeting is on June the 16th at 2 p.m. and you will be informed what type of meeting it will be, along with all the information and agenda items. And with that, I will adjourn the Park and Rec Board meeting at 3:05. Have a good weekend and
Good job.
Enjoy the sun.
Great.
All right.
Great.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.